I had a young lady just call, and gotta get that. It's mainly that wetback bitch off, that Maria Paraffin Tavares. Every time I build myself up, inexplicably, I get a hold of it. She's able to inure herself and come back, with a vicious passion. I took a couple of days to rebuild myself. I heard from certain spirits that I looked like dead. I had Santa Muerte all over me. Now, it's because, let me go into detail again. She's a tulpa, thought form. She's easy to get rid of. With that being said, the frankincense and myrrh keeps her at bay. But the problem is that this Maria Paraffin Tavares is somebody's highest self that's done initially infiltrated into my energy. And when I used 1945 hertz, accidentally became my highest self, but unofficially, I don't have a soul contract, and inured herself in my soul consciousness, my consciousness, to a degree where it's a it's a takeover, a very, very pernicious and nefarious takeover at that. That's why my eyes look the way they do. Again, I'm strong. Pick this up like it's nothing. This is 30 pounds. This one here, 25. Need to get a 20 so I can do this. I got to do some more reps today. But with that being said, I felt something that felt like somebody was about to full on. It was the scariest thing take over my consciousness. You got to be careful of who everybody's from. Kept hearing play with you. Make a long story short, I got fucked up. I played some urge. And nearly felt like something was about to take me over. With that being said, I lost a lot of my consciousness. A lot of my shit was going to Zendaya Coleman, these girls in that timeline. Zoe. Kind of like that name. Sound like Zoe Pound. So I got to do something about this Baron Samedi situation, especially given that Paul Dynach stuff I saw in the future with them wetbacks stealing the continent of Africa, probably through stealing our ancestral magic. And I believe, like in the article I'm going to show later on, starting with, them, I saw it this weekend, killing off Baron Samedi, partitioning off his body parts, stealing them, stealing my astral body parts, and people at 8704 Broadway. They're open, I believe, Wednesdays and Saturdays, and using our magic against us. I'm going to say this right now. That's why black people need to be a lot more whatchamacallit about who they give their energy to and all of that. I'm going to say something right now. Black Kyanite for a while was working on a, who you let in. I wanted to mention with these ICE raids, I heard in, many timelines this happening, and the blacks being the most sympathetic and the wetbacks being the most racist, vicious and hateful towards them. They don't like us because their creator God, Quetzalcoatl, was shapeshifted into a white man. You don't need to know anything else. They come from creator gods that were entity attachments made by Satan that controlled them, reptilian creators. I don't need to know anything else. That's all I need to know. That's why they worship whites and disrespect black people. That's their master. You come from direct the Cometians, who created the God Industrial Complex with Aludamare. being the blueprint. So, you know, Quetzalcoatl, who's under Heat Cake, that's her pet dragon I learned in the spirit plane. She got a whip for him, special whip. Yoda Bayo, not right, two black women I'm supposed to be the successor to. Yoda Bayo is the demiurge of everybody else with hair of wool and skin of bronze. You know, I also laugh when they call me an Uncle Tom. I notice I say that they like the thing. They like to imitate. You know, they say that they come from the Asians who crossed the Bering Strait. It's a lot deeper than that. But they remind me of John Carpenter's The Thing. They imitate what they feel will allow themselves to be inured next to you, to get close to you. What they feel could connect them energetically so they can take your shit, steal your energy. I figured it out. So they mimic you and they try to hit you at the heart chakra. Stole my shit. And try to develop a I don't want to say, and it's usually acerbic. It's never anything positive. They'll try to force themselves on you because they don't have much respect, so you have to stand up to them. You know, that's why I wear my MAGA cap. You know, I may wear my Donald Trump shirt. Used to have an ICE shirt and Border Patrol t-shirt, especially when I lived on the PCH. But with that being said, you know, that roused me up knowing that the motherfuckers call us mayates and don't like us. But you can't let it get to you. That's why you got to look at shit from a spiritual perspective, see the motherfucker's soul and see what they all about. You know, on the ancestral level, it's just all fucking low and predatory to me. It's fucked up. I know my eyes are fucked up just now. When I was saying that, I'm fucked up. You know, I wanted to do a whole, video talking about it. And I see a lot of things coming to pass with that, but I just feel like I keep getting delayed by this woman. What I saw coming and who I saw coming. With that being said, I got a call, talking about them people, it's a lot of motherfuckers. Okay, I see where I was going with this. I had a lot of my shit parceled out to them, especially going back to that August the 22nd, 2022 timeline. Like I said, I got to get that evil ass motherfucker and do something about the Illuminati. I've seen them in my timelines, especially going back to that August the 22nd, 2022 timeline. I heard my brother Kristen got sacrificed on a yacht. They have a yacht, the Windsors or something. Reminds me of Sandra and Ham. Where no matter where you go, you get thrown overboard. She was using their powers. I'm going to say this right now. I was able to get, I think, some of my powers back through He-Kate in the spirit plane. She was helping me out. And I believe, some past life ancestors. And basically what she was showing is they did something with my Baphomet. You know, again, starting from when I was very, very young. I was a small child. I was 8 years old back in 1991. I remember having vivid astral visions of meeting Jay-Z backstage with a bunch of other kids. And I felt, and I was right, sort of, that it had something to do, it connoted to rape, but turns out it was the rapers of our blessings. Everybody else are living normal lives, and I'm the one that got soul swapped. You know, when promised the silver lining, I never got to see that in my old age, despite having been poor for much of my life. My parents going through hell, becoming a sacrifice, because for some, you know, from what I understand, this is why the Illuminati does the one-eyed symbol. They want to bring the Egyptian aliens. I'm not going to call them gods. I don't see them as that. Or in reverence gods, because the ancestors down to their level and under their purview. So in other words, the creation and them motherfuckers ain't even nowhere near our level. You know, there's a word called Orishas, in which, you know, I heard in the spirit plane, Queen Elizabeth took over the body of an African girl right before she died, or incarnated into it, and then started beginning the process of Orishas, Duruhu, where it means breath of life. You know, and I've seen during soul curse, you know, how significant that is. You know, we come through a breath that, you know, it's kind of like how they talk about the jinn. They're smoke made of fire. You know, when you think of smoke, smoke is like breath. Given life, and we're like these subatomic particles, just like the atoms and molecules within us. Electrons, protons, neutrons are subatomic particles. With that being said, from what I understand, she began the process of removing her current life African ancestors and moving them out their bodies. You can use these frequencies, add as many zeros as you want at the beginning and ending as possible to, you know, do something about. I saw when they made of, you know, like the Matrix, you know, zeros and all of that during this whole thing. So, you know, it's kind of like what I've been proselytizing all along, that our souls, you know, they call it the source. It comes from a source. They call it the source, in which act as entities that these super entities, the Anunnaki, the Cometian gods, can, you know, interact with, can use to interact with other beings vicariously in a created, you know, a formed situation. I believe it's Satan that formed it, you know, through the primordial darkness. So he's one that got first dibs. You know, much like a video game. And that's what I was shown. You know, prize of zeros like, you know, DNA and all that. Spiritual, physical, you know, like DNA. With that being said, I'll say something, she starts fucking with me. They grabbed my Baphomet and stole my Baphomet. And were using it to fuck me up after I gave in to an alcohol urge I couldn't help. And it wasn't even, you know, I took the precautions, and by all reasonable precautions, it shouldn't have affected me and afflicted me that much. You know, you drink, you know, there was a time where I could drink a lot of Jack Daniels, still remember everything that happened with photographic memory. And Jack Daniels, which was created by a quote-unquote slave, would build your etheric walls. Gin, a lot of black people, you know, indulge in gin for a reason. It helps call on your ancestors, so you get ancestral protection while you're drinking. With that being said, I got fucked up by it. And I'm going to say this right now. This woman here, this video because I had this Maria Paraffin Tavares check out a lot of my consciousness. Reason why I couldn't do a video is because them road spirits being controlled by it urged me to do a video. Someone was telling me, don't listen. I did. And I'm trying to figure it out. Still, I got fucked up. But, you know, she did something where she was fucking with me and all of that. From what I understand, she wants to control me so I can't get any help. With that being said, you know, I'm going to say this right now. She kept putting them in Santa Muerte and trying to entrap them and all of that and trying to fuck them up. And with that being said, you know, I was working, you know, I was trying to get all my shit back, you know, early in the day. She kept removing like a major, you know, person that's been helping me out and all of that, spirit. With that being said, I had all of my archangels, my spirit guides and all that hired so timelines come to try to help and put me back. And it's just been, you know, tricky ever since. Very, very tricky. I'm just going to say this, I need spiritual help. Thank you. Calling on Anubis right now and Ron.